Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to you. You're welcome to another edition of Editors Forum. I am Rita Omodia. And on this program, we get to discuss issues affecting the polity and, of course, front burners in the line of this week. And I'll not be alone. I have distinguished gentlemen in our midst. Ambrose Bouquet, you're welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Rita.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon to the viewers.
And I hope I get the surname correctly because he's always emphasizing the fact that his surname is, what do you call it again? Is the way you call that?
It's my brand.
Yes, it's his brand, Nelson Kujumi. Oh, thank God I got it. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And of course, our people's man, Victor Aya, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me once again.
All right, now straight to business as usual. And this week has been quite a tremendous one. A lot of things and, of course, directives have happened that most people, of course, are happy with. And that, of course, is the Vice President calling for the reordering or overhaul of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SAS. But still along the course of the week, we realized that the National Assembly had to partially reconvene to discuss issues of the INEC, the election budget for next year. And when the lawmakers sat down, there were a lot of discrepancies with what the President, Muhammadu Buhari, brought and what the INEC boss, Mahmood Yakubu, brought. And this led to a split in the joint committee meeting yesterday. Now, before we analyze what happened, let's take a look at this report at yesterday's joint committee meeting to discuss the discrepancies in the INEC election budget.
Nigeria's electoral chief, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, is appearing before the Joint Committee for the second time in 3 days. But to give further clarification on how the funds for the election should be appropriated and sourced, the Minister of Budget and National Planning was also called in. Addressing the Joint Committee, Udoma says, despite requesting in his letter the Parliament split into 143 billion naira and 45 billion naira, President Buhari is not objected to approving the whole sum at once, provided it does not alter the shape of the 2018 budget.
If you pass the whole amount now, then we will not include the 45 billion in the 2019 budget. That's basically what we will not do. Now, in terms of, because the President has approved 189 billion. Therefore, should you wish to appropriate for the full 189 billion now, the President would have no objection.
The minister, who described this INEC budget as special, coming outside the main one as contained in the 2018 budget, noted that the main objective is having it passed early enough for next year's elections. But there was a clear split among the members of the Joint Committee as to which of the requests to be granted, whether that of the President or that of INEC.
What is the reason why the President divided this budget? One, 2018. Then another one, he said, because of financial constraint, that the other side will be captured when the 2019 budget is coming. The letter, that is what the letter said.
We can consider the 143 billion as proposed by Mr. President, and there is nothing that stops Mr. President tomorrow by sending another request.
We are a committee on INEC. We are not the committee on appropriation. I think the issue before us is whether or not the budget of 189 billion submitted by INEC is worthy of approval. We're supposed to scrutinize it and make a determination whether to approve or not.
The liaison officer to the President of National Assembly Matters, Senator Ita Enang, says there may likely be a problem as the Joint Committee has avoided the President's budgetary request for the office of the NSA, the DSS and the police for all the elections, while the INEC boss says it will wait for whatever the outcome.
So I just wanted to raise the question whether the other budget, National Security Advisor, DSS, the police and all that, have no questions and it will be passed along with the budget of INEC, or it will be considered later by your committee, or it will be considered by another committee.
INEC requested the executive for the sum of 189.2 billion naira for the 2019 elections. And that is exactly the amount Mr. President has requested the National Assembly to appropriate.
On the subject raised by Enang, the Joint Committee says the matter will be handled by the Committee on Police and other relevant committees, with the co-chair of the Joint Committee stating commitment to ensure hitch-free general elections. They say they will therefore decide on how best to make the funds available.
We are not playing politics with 2019 budget or elections budget. For those of you who think that politics is being played, there is no politics in this thing. In this committee, we don't play politics. We are here to support INEC to ensure effective, free and fair elections. We are here to ensure that INEC gets whatever they deserve.
We want to consider it the way we want it. And the way we want it, we will discuss it here. So we know that the actual amount is 189.2 billion naira. And so we thank you, Honorable Minister, for the explanation.
The Joint Committee subsequently headed for a closed-door meeting, having earlier adjourned further sessions on the INEC budget indefinitely.
Welcome back. You're still on to Editors Forum on Galaxy Television. Of course, that video clip you saw there was a joint committee meeting discussing on the INEC for the election budget. And as you saw there, they were complaining about the discrepancies and the variations that the INEC boss brought, Mahmoud Yakubu, and that of the executive, what President Muhammad Buhari brought before the lawmakers. And there were still other things that went in line, especially with the breakdown. Most people were alleging that the INEC boss was saying that he would give 6 billion naira for the funding of policemen. But of course, yesterday, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu disbursed that and of course said that that was not true, that they were going to spend about 4.2 million naira, with each policeman taking 1,000 naira, or rather each security agent with a sum of 1,000 naira on his head. But it's less than 5 months to the elections and we're still having variations on the INEC budget. Ambrose, is there something we're missing here?
Well, I think we are missing the normal processes. You know, we have not had institutions. What we have is a kind of gate crashing approach, which is what we do. When we are going to the World Cup, we don't plan for 4 years. We wait till 6 months to the World Cup and we start calling players to camp. The same thing that happens in government. I mean, for an election that is going to take place 2019, we had a 2017 budget, we had a 2018 budget, and we had appropriations along the way in between the budgets, yet we didn't do anything until just 2 months ago. For an election that, in fact, election is going to be conducted next year, but the election is actually beginning this year. I mean, for party primaries are supposed to start, in fact, in this August, and then go on to September. So that by October, parties are supposed to have their candidates already for the election. So the election processes have already begun. So it's not 2019 we are talking about here. It's the general election is said that we conducted in 2019, but the processes have already begun. So, and we are still talking about the budget to execute this process of election. And I think I'm very embarrassed as a Nigerian that we can't even plan the basics for our election. Then what of other things? If we can't plan things that we know the timetable, how do we do projections for the country? And I want to, the figures being bandied around, it's alarming. Last time we had 200 and something billion naira that the other half will be paid in 2019. Election is February. We all know that budgets in this country are not passed by February. So how do we get the second tranche of it? The other one is going 189.2 billion naira being requested for now. what made that very expensive? Well, INEC explained that in 2015 election, there were 44 political parties. INEC has now expanded than 91 political parties. They just registered some this week.
23, yeah.
And so making it 91 political parties, and that ballooned the cost. But I wanted to ask, was INEC already very sure that it was going to approve the 33 political parties it did this week when they set that budget? Because we have said it even in this forum that the budget seems too high. Because even in the 2015 election, when the hardware and the software for the card readers were purchased, that was not this very exorbitant. What is happening? Now, let me give you a little bit of analysis, comparison between the budgets. In 2011, INEC spent 131 billion, 131.4 billion, although 122.9 billion was appropriated, but they spent 131.4. Then in 2015, where all the card readers, all those things were purchased, the computers, they spent 108 billion naira. Now, what will make INEC spend 189 billion naira for 2019 election, first tranche, then spend another 100? So I think the House of Reps and the Senate actually have valid reasons to be concerned about the budget. And I think the faster we do it, the better for INEC. But I think that if they are cutting down the budget, they should do so as quickly as possible. If the legislatures are not rubber stamp, they are supposed to look into the issues we are raising, the issues they are raising, the issues Nigeria are raising, and then come to a consensus and say, okay, this is what is being appropriated. But again, we are in August, and 2018 budgets have not been appropriated. Well, is it going to be appropriated passed in December? So I don't know what is really happening. What the people we voted into power, what are they doing? And then you can see the INEC chairman is always running helter-skelter, getting confused. They are making the job more difficult for the man. Therefore, I think something urgently needs to be done. The National Assembly should get its acts together and immediately appropriate what they want to appropriate and stop this push and shove they are doing with INEC.
Okay, let's hear Nelson's reaction to these discrepancies.
Well, I don't see any discrepancies from the budget. I don't understand what you mean by discrepancy, because I recognize that Mr. President submitted a budget of 242 billion,
yes,
a supplementary budget for elections. And that 242 billion is not for INEC alone. Even the Immigration Service, the Nigerian Police, DSS, Office of National Security Advisor. And from that budget, the President said they needed just 164 billion in the 2018 budget from the extra budgetary increase that the National Assembly, inserted into the budget, because he appealed to them not to increase the total size of the budget. And be that as it may, the INEC chairman came there, and what he did was to clarify those issues, as required by the National Assembly, which is within their purview, because their responsibility as legislators is to scrutinize the budget, to cross, the I's and dot the T's, to cross the T's and dot the I's. And looking at what has transpired so far, a lot of misinformation is out there, but the man has gone there to clarify what his agency really wants. People saying there's discrepancy. The man was asked questions, and Mr. President said he needed 164 billion in 2018, and the remaining 78 billion naira in 2019 budget. Be that as it may, we must recognize one fact: the budget is an estimate. When INEC conducted the election in 2015-2011, the population of voters, the number of political parties, is not the same. Now we have a higher figure. As at 2015, we had 70 million voters. As we sit here today, INEC says she has registered about 12 million voters. And by the time people collect their PVCs, who knows, maybe we'll be having about 90 million voters. So you cannot expect the cost of logistics, the cost of paying allowances for people who oversee elections for 90 million people to be the same with 70 million people. So definitely those are the areas why there's this difference in cost. And also, you looked at the issue of the political parties. Now, INEC has to produce ballot papers that will accommodate 91 political parties, or even more, if the INEC is going to register more, provided that they fulfill the conditions, because the right to associate is a fundamental right. And that is why once a political association comes on board and is able to meet those guidelines, INEC does not have any other choice than to register such association called political party. And be that as it may, I think it is a good development that the National Assembly is looking to that budget. That is why we elected them to be there. We don't expect that the executive will just bring a budget and they will just rubber stamp it. And they're asking the necessary questions. So for me, I expect that from here, the National Assembly should do the needful so that we'll get the ball rolling in preparation for 2019 general elections. Okay,
now there's still a lot of talk about this 91 political parties. I mean, we have so many political parties, but how many of them are actually recognized? And some people are alleging that that's actually a way to devour more money because of the forms that you're going to use to register those parties. Do we actually need about 91 political parties?
You see, I said it earlier on that the right to associate is a fundamental right, is a natural right. That is why even as a human being, you want to have relationship. If you look at Abraham Maslow's 5 hierarchy of needs, the basic needs, the safety, security needs, then belongingness, it's natural in man. And if our constitution has recognized that, even if we are going to have 1 million parties, it's a right under the constitution that nobody must infringe upon. So, but no matter the number of parties we have, the people are the ones that will decide where to cast their lots. Some of those parties with time, they will naturally fizzle out. So for me, I believe that we should respect the constitution and not infringe on people's right to associate. No matter the number of parties we have, let the electorate decide that.
Okay. Now we have about, let's go to the issue of PVCs. We have about 300,000 PVCs unclaimed in Kwara State. Now, how would you react to that, Victor? A lot of people find they're going to go and get their PVCs, but they're not actually coming back to collect their PVCs. Don't you think that will be an issue for the elections?
Well, it's not a healthy development if people have registered and the PVCs are ready. The people should go and collect them. But the greatest problem we have is not even collection of PVC. People are not even finding the registration centers. I've gone around for people who complained when you go to the centers, you don't meet INEC workers there, and the centers are not even available. And those ones that are available, you see, endless queue. People will queue from morning to night and all that. So the operation is not seamless. The operation is so very difficult to access. And I have advocated for a continual registration, not only during election. We should have a process whereby once you attain the age of 18, you can walk into a ward of a local government area, you can walk to a headquarters of a local government area to go and register. That is how it is done all over the world. Everything about us is just upside down. And that's why we are having this problem. It doesn't supposed to be a problem. Like even the national ID card that people are being asked to register for, the one that we did in 2003, government has already condemned it. Some banks don't accept it. Whereas the new one that they asked us to register for, if you go to Alausa at 6 a.m., you see the place crowded. So it's not a healthy development. These are things that are done in other countries that don't pose as a barrier to people, but they suddenly become a barrier here as if we are going to the moon. So it is a continual process that we should advocate for. Once you have attained the age of 18, walk into a ward, walk into a local government area that is closer to yourself, you just register and you go away, then they give you the card. Even the issue of international passport, it is online. In some country, you just fill the form, you pay the necessary money, then post office workers will send it into your boss, or they ask you to come and pick it. So I don't know why things are so difficult here.
Okay, now let's look at all the lapses that the INEC has had in preparing for the 2019 election. Do you see any other lapses, or there's something that the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, is missing for the success of the forthcoming elections?
Well, a holy book says that money answereth all things. Now that message is very clear when it comes to an election. If you have not funded INEC till now, then already you are setting them up to fail. You are setting the body up to fail. You are setting up the chairman and his resident commissioner to fail. So first of all, the fund is becoming an issue in this electoral process, and that has to be addressed very, very fast. Otherwise, the election may be hampered, because if the party, they are supposed to monitor the party primaries, they are supposed to be heavily involved in that to monitor the process, and the money has not been released for logistics, then how do they do that? How do they comply with the Electoral Act if they are not funded? They can't move, they can't do anything. How do they mobilize their own officers? How do they mobilize the security agencies to monitor the processes for the primaries? So it's a grave concern, and that has to be. So that is one of the major obstacles that may hinder the election if it's not handled properly. And then the issue of security. In the last election, we had people that lose their lives, especially the youth corps that are being used as ad hoc staff. That has also to be looked into very critically to see that people, areas that are in danger, that the security are not very well beefed up, people should not be sent there in the name of election. And there should be a way to either beef up the security there or find alternatives to convert the people there to vote in another place that is considered safe, so that our ad hoc staff and people who volunteer themselves to serve INEC will not be in danger. And then I have not heard about voter education. Voter education has not taken place. We're still talking about primary, we're talking about the people have not been educated on what to do. As he has rightly observed, there are so many people that were registered newly. Who educated them? Even those who have been registered before, many people are still voter illiterate. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to say. They don't even know the processes. So would that be rushed? That's supposed to be something that is being, inculcated right from time, and so that people don't forget about them. But here we are, a few months to the election. Nobody knows that. There's no voter education going on anywhere. There's no voter education in newspapers. It's not in the grassroots. It's not in the television. It's not online. We have not seen anything. So that will be a great impediment to the election if we don't start that early. It's already too late. It's already late, but it's not too late, and we can start from there. So when we take care of these basic fundamentals, then the election will be fine. But if we delay them much more longer, then we may be worried for the 2019 election.
All right, well, we're still hoping that the lawmakers and, of course, the Independent National Electoral Commission settles whatever variations that they are going for. During the course of the week on Tuesday, the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, of course, ordered the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, to overhaul the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, which is a section of the Nigerian police force specifically created to combat violent crimes following allegations of human rights violation, corruption, several cases of harassment and extortion perpetrated by SARS operatives. Now, if we recall clearly, there were also called by many Nigerians who have called for the disbandment of a unit with the Twitter hashtag, then on social media was going rampant there. That was on the hashtag #EndSARS. But many people now have seen that as an answer to their prayers by the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, now calling for the overhauling, the reformation, the rejigging of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. And that leads us to our next topic right now. And most people are saying, is it just the Special Anti-Robbery Squad that should be reformed? What about all the security agencies apparatus? Ambrose, would you agree to that?
Well, I agree with the fact that it's not only SARS that needs to be reformed. SARS is an arm of the Nigerian police. And I recall that in this program here we have discussed when the EndSARS campaign started earlier this year, we talked about it. I would say the constabulary training of the Nigerian police is still very colonial, and that doesn't meet the modern trends of policing anymore. Therefore, we need to rejig the Nigerian police. The Nigerian police is too aggressive. The Nigerian police is more of reactive than proactive. Nigerian police is supposed to be more of trying to engage in intelligence gathering, to crime prevention, not reaction to crime. And then, as we know, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Anti-Robbery Squad has been existing before the Special Anti-Robbery Squad was created in 1992 or whatever. And then in the recent interview by the person who the first commander of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, he said that it started by when the Shina Rambo menace in Lagos, the armed robberies menace really increased, and they had needed a special force to combat that, outside the regular armed robbery squad, and that was when it was created. But over the years, when they started, it was about prompt reaction to crime scenes. Intelligence gathering, most of them were plain clothes, without even having guns. They were always, infiltrate, and then they were able to gather intelligence. And then they're all standing by. When the regular police is chasing criminals, they always stand by, at strategic points to, locate them and then hand them over and then intercept the running robbers. But over the years, it started in Lagos as a special operation by the Commissioner of Police in Lagos then. Now, it spread to other states that it came to be. And then this current chairman of the Police Service Commission, Michael Kiro, I think was the Deputy Commissioner of Police in Lagos then. So, over the time, it started spreading to other states. Now, it was a quick response. SARS was a quick response to robbery incidents and violent crime. It started with robberies. Then, when it started spreading to other states, then they now created a special head in Abuja, Commissioner for SARS in Abuja, trying to run the SARS all over the country. And that is when the problem started. So instead of being a quick response to a robbery incident, they started dabbling into what the regular police does, investigation. They're not supposed to be involved in investigation. So it get to the point that SARS started wearing t-shirts, from plain clothes to t-shirts, and then they started inscribing SARS. So we had issues of where people who were not SARS actually wore the uniform and then started having issues. And then we will have issues of when neighbors quarrel because you know somebody in SARS and then you go bring somebody and say my life is in danger and then SARS come. There was a particular incident I noticed myself, I witnessed in my estate where the executive of the estate brought in, SARS came in and were gun toting, shooting in the air because a resident reported that they were threatening her. That they let allow her leave the gate because she didn't pay her dues. What is the business of SARS with that? So that is where they have really, really gone down. Therefore, I will not advocate for scrapping of SARS. I would rather say that SARS should go back to the original purpose for which they were created. And then the purpose should be more technology driven. Because now with technology, with GPS, with tracking, with all kinds of technology associated with telecom and the internet, they will be able to make their job easier. So, but the direction given by the acting president I don't think is enough, because I hope it follows through, because there are so many directives given like this in the past and nothing happened. Now, so the creation of the FSARS and all those kinds, should they be left the way they are? What is the new? We need to have a blueprint to know if they are really going to change SARS. But I think they should go back to where they are, and then appoint unit commanders and let them report to the unit commander in their various states or even regions inside the state, so that it can be a quick response approach to robbery. But I think overall, we still need SARS, but they have to be greatly reformed to actually carry out the function which they originally set out to do.
Now, one of the basic allegations against SARS was the fact that there was a lot of human rights violation in SARS, and most people complained about it. And there were even responses to it saying that probably there should be demilitarizations of paramilitary agencies, in the sense that the reason for them being having a lot of brutality because of the fact that they are too militarized with weapons. Would you actually say that that is the cause why there's actually human rights violation among the Special Anti-Robbery Squad?
Well, thank you very much. I think every institution needs to have a mechanism for self-check or for reassessment. I don't think we needed the acting president, ordering or directing the Inspector General of Police, to overhaul SARS. The Inspector General of Police or the Police Management Committee is supposed to have a mechanism whereby they can have a feedback of how various agencies under their control. It's not only the SARS, it's not only the police, maybe SARS that needs overhauling. Even we as citizens ourselves, we need overhauling in our thoughts, in our conduct. But be that as it may, I think it's a good development that the so-called atrocities of SARS go to the highest quarters, which is the presidency, because ordinarily that was an issue that should have been dealt with by the Office of the Inspector General of Police, because the police has a constitutional responsibility. And where, as a public officer, you start hearing complaints about your men and officers going outside the confines of the law, committing acts that are gross violations of the law. It behoves on that institution to do a self-check so as to clear out the bad eggs. because bad eggs exist in every institution. But be that as it may, one will want to believe that with the directive of the acting president now, that the Inspector General of Police, in reforming SARS, will also do a sort of introspection and do a comparison between how the operatives work here and maybe in other climes. It can, borrow a leaf from some other client and see how we can inject new system or new ways of, conducting the activities. Because if you look at them honestly, when you go on the road at times, even on where there's a traffic jam, the way they will conduct themselves, you want to ask, are these not Nigerians?
Yeah, that's what I would like to bust in here. What exactly, let's go to the psychic of these people. These people are supposed to protect the lives and the rights of citizens. Yeah. Why would they have that, or why would they now turn into extortion? Because a lot of people have complained of them even collecting money illegally from people on the streets. So why would that actually happen?
It will happen because the nature of man is evil. Man is, man by nature wants to commit wrong, because wrong things fetch you higher reward, even though it will not last. So it is now left for the authorities to put in place a mechanism that can, get feedback to curtail their men when they are overstepping their bounds. It is natural that when you give people the opportunity to go and operate and you are not overseeing them, some people, if you like Bob Marley said, if you give them a yard, they will take a mile. So it is not left for the authorities to ensure that they have a mechanism in place such that they will be able to monitor the activities of these operatives, and where they are stepping out of bounds, there are disciplinary measures put in place in those institutions, to send out, to reel out the riot act and mete out necessary punishment. That will serve as a way to curtail those who might want to, take a cue. But a situation whereby you have given them the permission, all the what have you, to go and perform their responsibility, and you are not monitoring to ensure that they are on that page that the law has stipulated for them, whereby you just giving them the opportunity and you have left them to their own. It is not unlikely that you see such inimical acts by these operatives.
But those who are supposed to curtail these acts now, the Human Rights Commission, who are supposed to complain about it, and even the head of the security agencies, will we see that they are at fault to allow or let these things happen? Because they didn't cross-check all these things. There was no check and balance on the activities of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad.
In a way, they are also culpable, if you ask me. Culpable in the sense that they didn't put in place a measure through which the people can relate to them, independent of the people who have been alleged. If they have in place mechanism whereby if my right has been violated or assaulted, I can put a call through or an SMS, and that grievances will be addressed. If those operatives know that once they commit any act, if that is against the law, if the suspected offender takes it up that it could be dealt with, it will go a long way, in curbing the excesses. But a situation whereby when your rights are violated, you don't even know who to report to. And that shouldn't be the case. So that is also part of the control mechanism, the monitoring mechanism, so that when you send them out, people that they are dealing, because the SARS are dealing with the public, the Nigerian people. The Nigerian people must have a way of getting back to the authorities. That look, your men that you have sent out to perform this act, they are doing very well. They are doing very badly. So that they'll be able to take corrections. But when you don't put in place such measures, you leave the public at the mercy of your men to do and undo. And that is why we are where we are today. And that is why I'm saying that the authorities are also culpable in this aspect.
Okay, let's hear from Victor. I always call him the people's man, so I'm sure he has lots of things to say concerning these allegations on the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. In fact, some people are even alleging that he even upgraded to the fact of carrying POS and extorting money from people.
The directive given by the Vice President is a good one, it's a good development, but it's not going to solve the problem that is associated with SARS. Because in that directive, the directive is not specific. In what way do you see, it doesn't want the SARS to be overhauled? It is not specified. The little research I conducted, I did see what is expect SAS leadership to do. I would have expected him to give a directive that this issue of driving a vehicle all over the places, and you just see somebody with a bag, you see somebody with a phone, a laptop, he becomes enemy, becomes a criminal. I've never seen such a thing. That you are holding a good phone does not make you to be a criminal. That you are carrying laptop does not make you to be a criminal. So I would have expected such a specified directive that they should stop harassing Nigerians. They should stop this issue of stop and search. Criminals don't easily move in the daytime. Criminals hide. If a criminal see a security agent coming, he will look for a way to hide. They don't even move in the daytime. The way they think, they don't move. So that's why I've advocated that they should do more of intelligence gathering and technology. Monitor people's conversation. Use technology to know the movement of people. These are what is done in other countries, but our own is just a brute system. And the issue of carrying arms every now and then. In other countries, when you watch the police officers on the street, you don't see them with guns. But our own, any security agent, either national security and civil defense corps, they are all carrying arms. Are you fighting war with anybody? The place that we even need these people to concentrate, we don't see them there. It is in the public where people are going about their normal businesses that you see them armed. We don't need to carry arms in such places in open cities where people are trading. If you see them in computer village, you see them with arms. You see them in every market, you see them with arms. What are you looking for? So I would have expected that the vice president would have given specified directive. At the end of the day, this directive will not yield anything. I must tell you the truth.
Why?
It's not going to yield anything because it's not specified. Until you give specified directive, then people will not act. There's no specified, just overhaul SAS.
Well, according to this, I would like to butt in there because according to the statement, he actually advocated for an intelligence-driven and restricted to prevention and detection of armed robbery, kidnapping, apprehension of offenders leading to the stated offenses. And that is the statement from the acting president, Osinbajo. He actually advocated for more intelligence-driven security agencies.
Okay, will that stop them from moving from street to street? It will not stop them. If you are looking for armed robbers, it's not just moving from street to street. You see somebody. There was even a case of a young guy who was standing in front of his own compound in Bossas. And he was taken from their place and taken down to Alaba. Is that the way to police a state? That somebody, he was telling them that I live here. And yet he was taken down to Alaba and dropped somewhere. Just subjected that young man to untold suffering for committing no offense. I don't think that is how policing should be. So the directive should be more specified. And again, this centralization of security agency at the federal level is not going to help us. I keep saying it until we have state police whereby, because if the SARS commit any offense here now, before you know he's transferred to Abuja. Can you go to Abuja to seek redress? But if it's within the state, if we have state police, if somebody offends you, any security agency offends you here or trample on your rights and is transferred to maybe Ekpe, you can trace the person to that place and seek redress. But can you live here for Borno? You can't do that. And that's why we are talking about state police. Without state police, we are just wasting our time.
Okay, while we're still talking about security agencies and, of course, the human rights violation, we do realize that during the course of the week, a journalist, and that is Samuel Ogundipe, was arrested. And, of course, he has been released. He was released on Friday morning after he was granted bail by Abdul Wahab Mohammed, the magistrate of the Kubwa Grade 1 Magistrate Court in Abuja. Now, Samuel Ogundipe, a journalist with Premium Ties, was arrested and detained by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SAS) of the Nigeria Police Force. Now, he was released on Friday morning after he was granted bail, and of course, the judge granted a bail in the sum of 500,000 naira, and the surety resident within the jurisdiction of the court. Now, his arrest sparked outrage within and outside Nigeria, and of course, it led to protests as Nigerians marched to the force headquarters in Abuja on Thursday to demand his release. Although the police fired tear gas canisters at the protesters who had fled from the scene, they however grouped and marched back to the force headquarters, insisting that he must be released. Now, the reason for his arrest, according to the police, was premised on his refusal to disclose the source of his story on the memo of the Inspector General of Police to Acting President Yemi Osinbajo on the invasion of the National Assembly by operatives of the Department of State Services, DSS. If you remember clearly, the National Assembly invasion of the DSS, he released an agenda, a statement there, and they are saying, and they are accusing him of the memo he released to the acting president, Yemi Osinbajo. So he is accused of criminal trespass and stealing police documents, his news organization. That was what he had from his news organization. Now, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, local and international rights bodies have called for Ogundipe's immediate release, and we thank God that on Friday morning that he has been released. But apart from that, now, we have had cases of journalists, who were frequently threatened in Nigeria, a country that was under military regime. I mean, we're outside military regime, and people are complaining that they still do not have the freedom, the right to speak as they wish to. And of course, if you remember, a one-time journalist, that Jones Aberi, another Nigerian journalist, was detained for 2 years without trial over allegations he was linked to militants in the oil-rich Niger Delta. According to what the reports we had there was no proper prosecution of the detained journalist, that's Jones Aberi. But thank God he has also been released. But as it concerns us here, we're talking about human rights violation. We're talking about the abuse of power of security agencies. And of course, talking about the right, the freedom as a journalist to be able to speak and to write. But people are saying it as we are being curtailed from being able to write or speak. Now, let's hear from you, Ambrose. How would you relate to that particular? I see you smiling. He's very volatile concerning this particular situation, because I'm sure maybe as you walk out there, they arrest you and...
Yeah, yeah, you know, we always, after the program, sometimes there's this joke that, well, as we are stepping out on the studio outside these premises, that we'll not be surprised if we have gun-toting DSS or whoever person ready to carry us and whisk us. How dare you speaking against the president, all those kind of things. That is the reality we live in. In 2018, August, we are still talking about this. It's a shame that we have a constitution that, under Section 22 of the Nigerian Constitution, that the press, the media, is charged with making the government accountable to the citizens. The government must be accountable. This government lives as if it's above the law, or that it's untouchable. Nobody is untouchable. And you are telling Nigerians to live in the era of Dada of Uganda in the 70s, when Idi Amin said, well, there's freedom of speech in this country, but freedom after the speech is what you cannot guarantee. So are we in that kind of era where there's freedom of information, freedom of speech, you can say what you want, but after you say this thing, then come. And then this last one is very funny. How can the Inspector General of Police ask a journalist how he got his letter? And this is the second time in 1 year that the Nigerian police is actually arresting a journalist and asking the person, what is your source of information? Is it that they don't know the fundamental laws guiding journalism? A journalist, even at gunpoint, will not, I will never reveal the source. Any journalist worth his owners will not. They should ask the Tell magazine in the mid-90s how they were getting the minutes of meetings of the Provisional Ruling Council of Abacha then. Immediately after the meeting, they published it the next week. How were they getting it? Then instead of the IG of police to concentrate on how the memo leaked in the first place from his own establishment, is arresting a journalist and asking a source of information. I think that is highly draconian, and it should be called to order. That is highly draconian. And these current realities we live in the last 3 years, we have had arrests of over 20 arrests of citizens. I don't think that has happened since 1999 in one administration. There's a long chronicle here from August 2015, how somebody was arrested in Kaduna, somebody was arrested in Anambra, the Elomba guy was arrested in Anambra. My friend Chris Kandewandu, CKN, was arrested sometime 2 years ago too. So in between 2015 and now, there have been more than 20 arrests, both from the online bloggers, both from the conventional newspapers, both from TV. The Chinese case happened recently. Yeah. So I don't know what is happening. Is it that the presidency is not aware of this? Or is it that the president is not always aware because some of the National Assembly was not aware? They give orders. So who is trying to undermine the president? If the president didn't give the instruction, then there's somebody somewhere trying to undermine this president. And that person should not be where it will be having the power to control this kind of thing. And because the president has an antecedent. Is it Decree 4, right? Where Decree number 4, that happened between 1984 to 1985 when he was military head of state, where the freedom of the press was proscribed. And that was a major, major issue then. And so when this kind of thing starts happening under his watch again, as a Democrat, as a democratically elected president, people start questioning, is Decree 4 coming back in a disguise? Is Decree 4 back with us? Because why would you just pick up a journalist because he leaked your letter? Why did you not do your own as an intelligence outfit that gather intelligence? Why didn't you now probe it and do some kind of research, do some kind of investigation to know how it leaked in the first place? So this is our primary constituency, and I think we should make it loud and clear. And I must give kudos to there was a letter written to the acting president the day before yesterday by the National Body of Nigerian Union of Journalists. And that letter was powerful enough. NGOs came out, CSOs came out. There have been a lot of outcry. Nigerians came out. And I think we should be coming out like this when any journalist is being picked up. Gone are the days when journalists are picked up and we keep quiet. We should shout to the rooftops. We should ensure. I must also thank people like Omoyele Sowore who moved people, and then Charlie Boy, who also moved people there. And then with the tear gas, with all the tear, they came back and insisted that he must be released. And he was released. If we didn't take that action, he would have been there. Look at the other young man that was there for like 2 years. Yes, so I must give kudos to that. But again, we must also call on journalists to try to, because this is a case of factual reporting, but there are cases of fake reporting. So we also need to check ourselves in the sense of counterbalancing information. Because the rush to have a scoop or to have a breaking news in this age of social media is very, very tempting. Therefore, we should also be careful in breaking news and making sure that the stories we break are true. And then when we find out that it's not true, we should be able to quick enough to offer apologies. In that way, people who have the tendencies to really attack us, to pick us, or to demonize us, or to try to destroy us, will not have the leverage to do so. But when we have issues like that, like fake news, they will give their country to be able to do this they are doing. But above all, Nigerians, I'm proud of Nigerians this week to make sure that they stood up against the Nigerian police and ensured that Ogundipe was released.
Okay, Victor, let's hear from you concerning the detained journalist, and still on the legal procedures, because there was even a one-time journalist who was detained for 2 years, and according to what we have there was no proper legal procedures for that particular journalist. So we're seeing a fault on security agencies, we're seeing a fault on the judiciary, while we're still calling on the journalists to also be aware of the stories that they put on air or put on social media. Victor?
Well, I don't think the judiciary should be held accountable for that of Joseph Berry, because if you don't take somebody to court, there's nothing the judiciary will do. It is after the police has carried out its own investigation, and they feel that they have evidence to nail the person before they can take the person to court. But why they don't take certain people to court is because they know that they will not get victory at the court. If you know that you get victory at the court, why will you be holding somebody in custody for upward of 2 years? It is because they know that they will not get victory at the court. That is why they are doing that, and it is against the Constitution. And because you can only hold somebody for 24 hours according to the Constitution, because every suspect is believed to be, innocent until it's proven guilty by a constituted court. So when you have not taken somebody to court, you cannot, as an individual that is not a court, to pronounce somebody guilty. Not even the president has that power. Nobody, no governor has that power. It is only the court that has that constitutional power to pronounce somebody guilty or free of guilt. So if by not taking the person to court, the security agency that held him for 2 years, if we're to be a proper, a good places where things work fine, he's going to become rich, because by the time he goes to court and he wins the case, you are going to pay heavily for wasting his fundamental right, for taking his freedom from him for upward of 2 years. 2 years in the life of somebody, that is, somebody is to go to school and to university. You have taken away 2 years of his academic year from him, which is not allowed. So the security agency are not doing the right thing in this country. And they should know that, as I said the other time I was here, that if you are employed in this country, if you are a public office worker, you have only 35 years to serve. After 35 years, you retire to become those people you are calling bloody civilian. You become a bloody civilian, because by the time you drop that toga, that name that you are once inspector, you are once a commissioner of police, you will no longer bear that name. The arms you are carrying today, you will no longer be fit to carry those arms. You become ordinary citizen just like every other person. So why don't you build a various society, a society of peace, whereby things are done accordingly, so that by the time you come and join the masses that you are calling bloody civilian today, that time when you come and join them, you will not have the cause to regret that, if I had known, I would have acted differently while I was in the military. Because everybody cannot be a security agent. Everybody has his own duty. Some are journalists, some are doctors, some are lawyers, some are this. Because if everybody abuses his business or his job, his profession, then there will be chaos in the world. Because if, for instance, you have a sick somebody, you take the person to hospital, and the doctor or the nurse that is to administer drugs on the person just take any drug and administer to the person can lose his life. And that is what they are doing. By unilaterally taking decision, holding on to somebody that has not been tried and pronounced to be guilty of any offense in custody for upward of 2 years, that's abuse of duty. It's abuse of assignment that have been given to them as security agency. As a security agent, the fact that you wear that uniform or you are carrying gun does not confirm on you the duty of the court. It is only the court that has the right to pronounce somebody guilty or free of guilt. And before that can happen, you as a security agent, you have to gather your information and take the person to court. But holding that person for upward of 2 years is a highly condemnable act of indiscipline.
Okay, let's hear from Nelson. We see this as a threat to the democratic structure we have in Nigeria. How do you see we can go past all this?
Well, I think for me, it's a disturbing development in the sense that even the police themselves know that the right of the journalists to withhold the source of information is constitutional. But we have been here before. It now builds on the media itself to do an introspection, to hold on to its rights, to do that which is legitimate and which is fair. And when I'm talking about these days we have become saddled with fake news, lies, and falsehood and what have you. The power of the police to arrest anybody is not in doubt. But under the law, the police cannot keep you in detention for more than 48 hours. You are expected to charge you to court. And that was why some of us, we issued statements calling on the police that if you are holding this guy for whatever offense and it's beyond 48 hours, then you must charge him to court so that the court will decide his fate. The police cannot become judiciary in this crime. If the power of the police is to prosecute, the judiciary is an arbiter. So be that as it may, I think it's a development that we should continue to challenge, to continue to push out the facts such that people saddled with the responsibility will learn, because it's like we are going around in circles about police arresting a journalist and asking him for a source of information. But unfortunately, if you look at the charge that he was taken to court for, it was not about the source of his story. It was on another matter entirely. But be that as it may, no matter the case the police bring up against you in court, it is not left for the police to prove to the court beyond reasonable doubt with facts that is when they can get a conviction. Otherwise, if at the end of the day the case is struck out, I would encourage the young man to go to court and seek, redress for the deprivation of his fundamental rights.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that's the much we can take on today's edition of Editors Forum. And we discussed about the variations of the INEC budget. We also looked at the overhauling of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Of course, we called for an overall overhauling of all security agencies, reform them and let them have the right mandate. And of course, we talked about the detained journalists, and we're happy that they were being freed, but we're still advocating for freedom of journalists to be able to air their views freely without being afraid of prosecutions at the end of it, while also calling on journalists to stop bringing about fake news and bring what is right to the populace. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you, Ambrose Ibuke. Thank you very much for being on the show. Nelson Ekujumi. Thank you for being on the show. And of course,
you are very careful about the name.
I'm very careful about the name, because even the meaning of the name, I asked him several times, I said, what's the meaning of this name? But when I hear the meaning, I don't know, those that know the meaning know what the meaning is, so let me just keep quiet there. And of course, Victor Aya, thank you very much for being on the show, as always. Thank you. And of course, to all those who made today's edition a wonderful one, I would always thank you. Thank you very much for today. And to our lovely audience out there, thank you for being a part of Editors Forum. I am Rita Omodia. Do join us same time, same station for another edition of Editors Forum. God bless Nigeria.
Nothing